first time you really notice the gorge, it feels obvious. Like it's always been there. A river, a canyon, two walls of rock guiding everything through. Wind, weather, roads, railways, people. The Cascades are a mountain range, a living volcanic arc. Rivers usually go around that. This one doesn't. The Columbia goes through. So the real story isn't just how beautiful the gorge is, it's how it came to exist at all. In the next few minutes, we're going to do it in two ways. We're going to let the gorge feel like the gorge, with quiet moments that last long enough to actually land. And we're going to answer the question underneath it, the one that makes this corridor different from almost anywhere else. Because geologists now describe the Columbia as the largest river on Earth that crosses an active volcanic arc. And the evidence suggests it has been cutting through the Cascades for at least 17 million years. If you want the simplest version of how the gorge formed, it comes down to 3 chapters. First, the Northwest got paved in lava. Between about 17 and 6 million years ago, enormous floods of basalt poured across the region, stacking thick layers of dark rock that still make up a lot of the gorge walls today. Second, the river kept its route while the mountains changed around it. This is the part people skip, because it sounds too slow to be dramatic, but it's the core of the story. The Cascades didn't just pop up overnight. They rose and evolved over a million years. And while that happened, the Columbia kept sawing its way to the sea, maintaining a path and cutting downward as the landscape tried to reorganize itself. Third, the Ice Age came through like a pressure washer. Near the end of the last Ice Age, huge outbursts of floods surged down the Columbia system. These often were called the Missoula floods, and they pushed through the Columbia River Gorge on their way to the Pacific. They didn't invent the gorge out of nothing, but they did supercharge erosion, widening and scoring parts of this corridor in a way a normal river simply can't. So the one-sentence version is this: lava built the walls. The river kept cutting through a rising mountain range for millions of years, and the Ice Age floods blew the whole corridor open into something you can't ignore. Once you know the gorge is a cut through the mountains, you start noticing what the cut does. It moves air. Air pressure wants to equalize between the marine west and the drier interior. This corridor gives it a path. That's why the wind here can feel like a living thing. It isn't just a nice day. It's geography doing its job. On the west end, moisture piles up, the forests stay saturated, and the water keeps finding edges to fall from. The risk with the famous stops is that you treat them like the whole story, but the waterfalls are just one expression of the system. The real magic is the speed of the change. Keep heading east, and the gorge starts to feel like it's turning a dial. Less rain, more sky, different plants, different smells in the air. The corridor is a gradient between ecosystems compressed into a short distance, and that's one reason it hits people so hard. It feels like you crossed climates without actually traveling far enough to earn it. The Columbia is scenic, but it's also functional. The river carries commerce, power, and infrastructure through a corridor that was already designed by geology to be a route. And it carries memory. There are places along this river where the story of the Northwest is not abstract. It is specific, and it has names, and it has a cost. This is the moment where the gorge stops feeling like pure wilderness and starts feeling like controls and concrete. Bonneville Lock and Dam sits near the western end of the corridor. built and operated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. First powerhouse, spillway, and original navigation lock were completed in 1938, with two purposes that still define the project: hydropower for the region and navigation on the Columbia. Over time it grew. A second powerhouse was completed in 1982, and a larger navigation lock followed in 1993, because this is not only a scenic corridor, it is a working artery. It also changed how the stretch of river feels. The reservoir behind Bonneville is often called Lake Bonneville, and it drowned older hazards and features that once made this reach famous and feared. And because every dam on a salmon river becomes part of a salmon story, fish passage is part of what happens here too, whether you came for the view or not. If the gorge is deep in time, the next story is in human time. Not myth time, not geology time, human time. Sometime within the last 1,000 years, a massive landslide near Cascade Locks shoved into the river and created a natural dam. An event remembered as the Bridge of the Gods. The Columbia eventually broke through, but the blockage changed the river and helped create the Cascade Rapids, a notorious choke point for travel. And then later, those rapids were submerged when Bonneville was built. The river still moves, but the river's personality here was rewritten. In 1986, Congress created the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area. It covers land on both sides of the river across multiple counties in Oregon and Washington. And it exists because this place is too valuable and too pressured to leave to chance. The governance is unusual. A bi-state gorge commission manages land use planning for non-federal lands, while the U.S. Forest Service manages federal lands in the scenic area, and the whole thing operates through a regional management plan. The gorge has another way of reminding you it's alive. It changes fast when the conditions line up: fire, wind, dry seasons. The corridor that moves weather can also be trouble. Places like this look timeless in a photo, but they are not frozen. They are active, and they respond to what we bring into them. The gorge is a corridor built by extremes. Lava laid down as the backbone. The river kept cutting through rising mountain ranges for millions of years. Ice Age floods toned through and widened the opening, and we arrived and turned this cut in the mountains into a route, a power source, a weekend destination, and a place we expect to stay beautiful, no matter how many of us show up.